This is a great time to call our other panelist. He's a young man with a lot to say, and that's because he's a young man with a lot of thoughts. And he has been someone that I've listened to, that I relate to. He and I are, in that same age category. I think, Trey, you're like 30 yet? You're 30 yet? Oh. I'm almost offended. Anyway. Let me open the category. He and I in that same category between 25 and 40. That fixed that, right? But I want to welcome him to this podium so that we can hear from him how this topic is moving. So help me with a round of applause, Mr. Latrae Rahming. And Trey, you got the topic, restoring dignity in politics. So if you could share for us tonight after you've introduced yourself and say a couple of things about yourself, if you could share for us tonight, what were your initial thoughts when that topic was presented to you or given to you? How did you feel about that? What were you thinking?
Good night. Thanks to the Marathon branch for having me. Good night to our Vice Chairman Barry, and as well as another Vice President, Chairman. When I think about the issue of dignity, me and Mrs. Martin have been in back and forth on this topic for the last 2 months. And I asked her what drives people to politics, whether it's about their personal interests or whether it's about people. And I was reminded today by my colleague that my rights end when your rights begin. And it's summarized that we ought to respect one another, right? Politics thus far has been, if you want to do a scientific example, right? In the last election, and I won't make this night about FNM or PLP, because I think this is something that both political organizations need to discuss. But in the last election, the FNM ran a campaign that exploited the weak points of the PLP. They knew that the Bahamians was afraid of Chinese. They knew that the Bahamians thought that politicians was corrupt. And so they exploit those things. And our politics has become less about ideas and policies and more about how do we win. And if it means telling the Bahamian people that the Chinese own Bahama or the Chinese own the Bahamas, that's the narrative that we're going to put out there. So that kind of politics has robbed our democracy of so many things, because I always believe that politics should be a competition of ideas and vision. Rather that if you're an FNM and I'm a PLP, we may differ, we may agree that the Bahamas is a better place or could be a good place, but we disagree on how do we get there, right? That's what I thought politics was really about. But what I realized in the long term, when I started the campaign, I saw people coming to Gambia House not because they had this intrinsic purpose or value or understanding of what the PLP was about, but they came there because they thought it would be something for their self-advancement. Not in a social way or an economic way or in a way that empowered people. They thought about how they could use the PLP as a vehicle to gain. And when that vehicle stopped, they go somewhere else to gain. And so when I look at dignity, I look at our common respect. How do we respect one another as Bahamians? How do we disagree? How do we disagree with the cost of healthcare? How do we educate our children? How do we give care to the sick? That's when I thought that we could have a candid conversation on our respect. And because we're having an honest discourse, and because tonight as PLPs we're going to open ourselves up to that honest conversation, there's some things that the former speaker said, and he was the guardian of our democracy, so to speak, right? You as voters have a responsibility. And far too often, people believe that responsibility only ends at voting in a party. But the most powerful office in this country is the office of being a citizen. And you have a duty to be the gatekeepers of our democracy. If you elect people who do not have dignity, there will always be the question, you cannot restore that was not there. And the only way you can restore something is by electing those who have it. I think we run the risk, and I do not want to use this platform as a way to attack anyone else. I think in the last election, many voters didn't do their due diligence on who they were going to elect. They elect people who didn't have a problem with domestic violence. And who said that when I was growing up, my father said it was okay to hit a woman. But they didn't find that out until that person was elected. And so, as the gatekeepers of our democracy, you have a responsibility, and we all have a responsibility. When someone is vying for my vote, when they go to Parliament, they are a formula that represent our collective interests. And if they don't have that interest in themselves, then they cannot carry on your interests. So I think when it comes to dignity, it all boils down to how we could disagree as Bahamians and have the kind of decent common respect to advance our country.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Trey. Audience members, a round of applause. I think we had a really good cross-sectional way of response, and it kind of gave us a nice segue into one of the questions that I have for the gentleman. Accountability and transparency were the main themes. You heard it floating around in the last general election. Why do you think this resonated so much with the electorate? All right, just give me a 30-second to a minute answer, gentlemen. I'm going to start with Latrae, and then I'll give it to you, Doc. Why do you think accountability and transparency resonated so much with the electorate?
I think in the last general election, the Free National Movement was very effective in portraying to the Bahamian, or advocating to the Bahamian people that the PLP were hiding things in reference to the Bahama VAT or value added tax. What happened is we have been very effective in dumbing down very essential functions of governance, and people don't trust it. So the reason why transparency and accountability was so effective is because they peddled the notion that the PLP had something to hide with Bahama, and they peddled the notion that the PLP was hiding their VAT revenue. So I think that's why those keywords was really effective in the last general election.
And so the same question for you, Latrae. Social media, its impact on the perception of politicians. Is that perception grounded in fact?
The FNM in their last campaign ran a very psychological campaign. When you played your game, you saw the FNM. When you turned your TV on, if you were connected to Microsoft, you saw the FNM. If you went on Facebook, you saw the FNM. So they ran a very psychological campaign, right? That psychological impact reinforced what their polls were saying to them, right? Now, there's two parts of campaigning. There is door-to-door campaign, and there's polling and data campaign, right? So their poll said to them, if you told the people that the PLP stole the VAT money, if you told them that Jerome or Christie was corrupt, if you told them that the Chinese indeed were doing something mischievous with Bahama, that will improve your odds of winning, right? That's what the people believe. All you have to do is reinforce what they believe, right? What the Speaker of the House said, the former Speaker of the House said, was so important. When the Prime Minister was standing up and calling PLPs corrupt, we sat there and allowed him to call us corrupt, right? And I watched every opportunity they had. They said, the corrupt PLP, the corrupt PLP, because it's something that their polls tell them is a good thing to say. And so they have institutionalized the word corruption with the PLP. And what they did from Ingram, they coined this governance in the sunshine, transparency, accountability. And we know they aren't transparent, and we know they aren't accountable. The problem is the electorate has seen both parties as two evils. They've seen the PLP as corrupt, and they've seen the FNM as a party that would look out for rich Bahamians. They don't necessarily see them as corrupt or stealers or people who thief, right? So when you see social media is a very expensive form of technology. And as a party, we don't have the kind of resources to combat that. Because in the last election, we had to deal with Save the Bay. And if anyone understands the funding of Save the Bay, it was millions of dollars. they were able to buy front pages of the Tribune and the Guardian of PLP corruption. So I think as a party, we have to have a serious conversation as to how we stop foreigners from influencing our elections, and how do we combat social media.
Completely dominate the conversation in the country. It's already dominating the conversation. How do we repair what I call deepening political divisions? Deepening political divisions in both politicians and the electorate. How do we try to circumvent this division that elections have brought?
Well, I think the immediate challenge is, it all starts with leadership. I've had the opportunity to work along with the Prime Minister, and I understand the responsibility of that office. It is the responsibility of the Prime Minister to appeal to the best of who we are as a society, who tell the Bahamian people that despite it all, we can always come together as one. I participated in a pre-Doreen pre-Doreen briefings, right? I thought it was ridiculous that a pending hurricane was coming, and the opposition and the government had to be briefed by the same individuals in separate rooms at separate times when a national tragedy or a pending disaster was coming. And so when you have a government that don't understand the functions of our institutions, who don't respect the office of the opposition, who don't respect who walks in the House of Assembly, and supposed to be giving an update on Hurricane Doreen, instead he's talking about the drug trades of the PLP. You have someone who doesn't want to appeal to the best of who we are, who likes that we are divided, who understands that if I just continue to peddle mistruths, it helps my political gain. And so I think that if we are going to ever marry our political divides, we have to have someone who is Prime Minister, who believes in the commonalities of Bahamians. And currently right now, we have a Prime Minister who allowed a member of a board to say things about a sitting chairman of the PLP, a member of the Senate, the leader of the opposition, and says nothing. He allowed his political cronies to talk about all sorts of things. And so if the Prime Minister do not hold people in account, you're going to have this kind of culture that the poor will always be amongst us, right? Yes. But it's the responsibility of the PLP to wield justice in their favor, and to protect them, to empower them, and to uplift them, right? So we settle that issue. What is real in our country is something called voter enthusiasm. People are uninspired. People they're not excited about politics. They don't feel like, yeah, Peter ain't different from Paul in a sense, right? When you went into, let's take the slogans. The F&M slogan in 2007 was it's a matter of trust. Mm-hmm. In 2012 we said believe in Bahamians, right? In 2017 the F&M said it's the people's time. These are psychological campaigns. You had people who believed that they couldn't trust a government. You had people who believed that they felt that Bahamians didn't count. And you had people who believed that people didn't matter, right? That's the psychological impact of the voter, right? And we've been able to exploit that over a period of time. But the challenge is, for most people, they were mere slogans. They were slogans that were good enough to get you elected. What we have done, and both of us may be guilty of this. If I call Barry a thief, and Barry called me a thief, then Terrence say, both of y'all are thieves. So we've done this to ourselves. Yes. We've devalued our national discourse. When the PLP walked inside the House of Assembly after Hurricane Matthew, and we said the impact of hurricanes on the economy, the F&M laughed. They called us crazy. Oh, what climate change? Peter Turnquist said it's ridiculous to have a government to try to borrow money after hurricane. He dumbed down the people on the impact of hurricane. Then
And
he
did
said
the
that
same thing.
women deserve the same kind of rights as men in our country. And they did the exact same thing. They dumbed it down and they laughed. And so from time and time again, when you can't campaign on ideas and policies, what's your next option?
Yep.
You
Scandal.
scandalize it, you dumb down people, and it's easier. And when we said to the Prime Minister that we should hold hands on gender rights or equality bills, he said, yeah man, we can do that. And when the time came, he backed away. Politics require integrity. Politics require the moral courage. And the reason why the voter enthusiasm and voter turnout is coming down because the electorate, the most powerful thing that you could have is the right to vote. When you think that your right to vote cannot change your future, then as a democracy we have a problem.
Yes.
Into frontline politics. Do you think the perception of corruption will affect you in that pursuit, and how do you intend to circumvent that?
Well, that's a cute question because we started off by someone who was desiring to enter into frontline politics. I don't want anyone leaving thinking they're going to run. But, let me just say this.
Why not?
Let me just say this.
Why not?
Let me just say this. Our democracy is too small to be divided by politics. The Bahamas as a country is too small to be divided by small politics. I, believe it or not, the story of Dr. Kendall Major, when he said to me, I was in the chair and I asked him that question. I said, what encouraged you to go to politics? And he told me the story of what the PLP through Sir Lyndon had done for him. And he said that Sir Lyndon told him that one of probably his biggest dissatisfaction was that despite achieving majority rule, we did not achieve economic emancipation for our people. And that drove Dr. Major to politics, because he felt that he had an obligation to finish that off. So I say to young people, I came into politics with that same obligation that Sir Lyndon and others has brought the Bahamas thus far, and we have to have the fortitude and the moral courage to build on that. I am true to myself. I think that people should come into politics because they believe in the advancement of people. Politics is a people's sport, whether you believe it or not. And if you understand serving people, then politics should be easy. But until we could have the kind of national discourse that say whether you're an FNM or PLP, we're going to respect one another. I believe that you love the Bahamas just as much as I do. I don't agree with your healthcare plan or your educational plan, that we could have an election ran on ideas. So I think that we have to always assume the best of one another before we call each other corrupt. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen.